Admiral Hyun-woo Kim stood on the observation deck of Luna Command, watching the dark space beyond Earth's moon. His coffee had gone cold hours ago, but he did not care. Today was the day they had been waiting for. Today the aliens would come. "Sir, we're getting the signals," said Lieutenant So-young Park, walking up to him with a tablet in her hands. "The Valathi fleet just entered our solar system. 500 ships, just like our spies said they would bring." Hyun-woo nodded slowly. 500 ships sounded like a lot, but he knew it was not the Valathi Empire's full strength. Their intelligence report said the aliens had over 10,000 ships spread across their conquered worlds. They were only sending 500 because they thought Earth would be easy to defeat. "How long until they reach us?" Hyun-woo asked. 6 hours, sir. They're moving fast, but not too fast." "They think they have all the time in the world," So-young replied. She was young but smart. Very smart. She had studied the alien languages and helped Earth understand what the Valathi were really like. Hyun-woo looked at the stars and remembered how this all started. 3 years ago, Earth's deep space stations had picked up alien radio signals. The messages were not meant for humans. They were Valathi ships talking to each other about their next target, Earth. The aliens had been watching Earth for months. They saw the wars, the fighting between countries, the pollution, and the struggles. To them, humans looked weak and divided. They thought Earth would surrender after a small show of force. They were wrong. What the Valathi did not know was that all those wars had ended 2 years ago. Every country on Earth had signed the secret Terran Defense Treaty. The fighting they still saw was fake, just training exercises made to look real. The world had united against the alien threat, but they kept it secret. "Signal Captain Dong Hyun." Hyun-woo said, "Tell him to get his ships ready. Remember, we need to look scared and weak when they arrive." So-young smiled a little. "Yes, sir, he knows what to do." Captain Dong Hyun Lee was in charge of the first defense line. His job was to make the aliens think Earth was helpless. His 20 ships were old destroyers that looked beaten up and slow. The aliens would see them on their sensors and think Earth's military was pathetic, but those ships had been rebuilt on the inside. They looked old, but they had the newest weapons and shields hidden where alien sensors could not detect them. They also had new engines that could move much faster than they appeared to be able to. On the bridge of his ship, the Soul's Pride, Dong Hyun checked his weapons one more time. His crew was nervous but ready. They had trained for this moment. For 2 years. "Captain, the alien fleet is 4 hours away now," reported his second-in-command, Lieutenant Ji-hoon Choi. "Our sensors show they're in a standard attack formation." "They really think this will be easy." Dong Hyun laughed, but not in a happy way. "Let them think that. When they get close enough, we'll give them their first lesson about humans." Back on Luna Command, Admiral Hyun-woo was meeting with his top officers. They sat around a large table with a holographic display showing the solar system. Red dots marked where the alien fleet was moving, and blue dots showed where Earth's hidden defenses waited. "The plan is simple," Hyun-woo said to his team. "Captain Dong Hyun will engage them first. His ships will fight for a few minutes, then retreat. The aliens will think they scared us away. They'll push forward, trying to reach Earth quickly." Commander Taemin Kong, who was in charge of the hidden weapon platforms, raised his hand. "Sir, what if they don't take the bait? What if they're more careful than we think?" "They won't be." "Careful," So-young answered before the Admiral could speak. "I've studied their psychology for months. The Valathi are proud warriors, but they've won too many easy battles. They expect every species to break and run when they show force. They can't imagine anyone setting a trap for them." Engineer Hyjin Lim spoke up next. "All our hidden factories are ready, sir. If we lose ships, we can build new ones faster than they can destroy them. The aliens don't know about our automated shipyards." Hyun-woo looked at each of his officers. They were good people, and they were ready to fight for their world. Remember, everyone, today we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting to show the galaxy that humans are not easy prey. Whatever happens, we make them pay for every inch. The meeting ended, and everyone went to their positions. Hyun-woo stayed on the observation deck, watching space. In a few hours, that empty darkness would be full of laser fire and explosions. He thought about his daughter, who was safe in the underground cities. He thought about all the children on Earth who were depending on him and his people to keep them safe. The aliens thought Earth would crumble easily, but they did not understand humans at all. Humans had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters for thousands of years. They had learned to work together when they had to. They had learned to fight when fighting was the only choice. And they had learned to be very, very clever when facing a stronger enemy. "Sir, Captain Donghayan reports he's in position," So Young sighed, returning to his side. "The alien fleet will reach him in 30 minutes. Good. Signal all ships to maintain radio silence after the first battle starts. I want the aliens to think they destroyed our communications." "Yes, sir." Henwu picked up his cold coffee and took a sip. It tasted terrible, but he needed something to do with his hands. Soon, the most important battle in human history would begin. On his ship, Captain Donghayan watched his sensors as the alien fleet got closer. 500 ships was more than he had ever seen in one place. Each alien ship was bigger than his. Destroyers? Their weapons were stronger and their shields were thicker, but Donghayan was not worried. His ships were not meant to win this first fight. They were meant to make the aliens confident. And confidence, as any good soldier knew, could be a very dangerous thing. "All ships, this is Captain Lee," he said into his radio. "Remember the plan. We fight hard for exactly 10 minutes, then we run. Make it look real, but don't take any unnecessary risks. We have bigger battles ahead of us." His pilots responded one by one. They were ready. "Enemy fleet and weapons range in 5 minutes, sir," reported Lieutenant Ji-hoon. "Signal Luna Command. Tell them the show is about to begin." Far above them, Admiral Hyan-woo received the message. He closed his eyes for a moment and said a silent prayer for all the humans who would die in the coming battle. Then he opened his eyes and prepared to show the aliens what humans were really made of. The Valathi fleet moved closer to Earth, confident in their strength and certain of their victory. They had no idea they were flying into the most carefully prepared trap in human history. The war for Earth was about to begin. Fleet Commander Zethkal stood in the center of his flagship's bridge, watching the human ships on his main screen. The primitive vessels looked exactly like his intelligence reports had described them: old, slow, and weak. 20 small destroyers against his mighty fleet of 500 warships. "Pathetic," he said to his second-in-command. "These humans think these toys can stop us?" "Commander, the human ships are moving to attack position," reported his weapons officer. "Should we destroy them quickly?" Zethkal thought for a moment. The Valathi Empire had conquered 17 star systems, and every species had tried to fight at first. They always broke quickly when they saw the true power of the Valathi fleet. "Humans would be no different. Let them come," he said. "I want them to feel hope before we crush it. Fire only enough weapons to scare them. When they run, we will chase them all the way to their homeworld." On the human ship Soul's Pride, Captain Donghayan watched the alien fleet spread out into attack. Formation. The Valathi ships were beautiful in a deadly way, long and silver with weapons that glowed blue in the darkness of space. "All ships, begin the attack," Donghayan ordered into his radio. "Remember, we have 10 minutes to make this look real." The 20 human destroyers charged forward, their weapons firing bright streams of energy at the alien fleet. To the Valathi sensors, it looked like a desperate last stand by a doomed species, but Donghayan's ships were not really trying to win. Every shot was carefully aimed to hit the strongest parts of the alien shields. Every movement was designed to look brave, but hopeless. They were actors in a play, and their audience was 500 alien warships. "Human ships closing to attack range," reported the Valathi weapons officer. "They're firing everything they have." "Their weapons are weak," Zethkal said, watching the human energy beams bounce harmlessly off his ship's shields. "Return fire. But don't destroy them all yet. I want some of them to escape and tell their leaders how hopeless resistance is." The Valathi ships began to fire back. Their weapons were much more powerful than the human guns, but they held back just like their commander ordered. A few human ships took damage and began to smoke, but none were destroyed. On Luna Command, Admiral Hyan Wu watched the battle through. Long-range sensors, everything was going exactly as planned. The aliens were being careful not to destroy all of Dong Hyan's ships, which meant they wanted prisoners or survivors to interrogate. "Sir, the alien commander is trying to talk to Captain," Dong Hyan So Young reported. "They're broadcasting on several frequencies. What are they saying?" So Young listened to her translation equipment for a moment. "They're demanding surrender. They promise to treat prisoners well if the captain gives up now." Hyan Wu almost smiled. The aliens thought they were being generous. They had no idea what was really happening. "Tell Captain Dong Hyan it's time for Phase 2 of the plan." On his ship, Dong Hyan received the Admiral's message. He looked at his bridge crew and nodded. "All ships begin retreat pattern 7. Make it look like we're panicking." The human destroyers suddenly stopped their attack and began to run away from the alien fleet. But they did not run in a straight line toward Earth. Instead, they scattered in different directions, making it look like their formation had broken apart in fear. "The humans are fleeing," shouted the Valathi weapons officer with excitement. "Their formation has collapsed." Zethkal watched the human ships run away and felt satisfied. This was exactly what had happened in all their previous conquests. The local species would try to fight, realize they could not win, and then panic. "Pursue them," he ordered. "But don't destroy them all. I want to capture some of their ships to study their technology." The Valathi fleet began to chase the scattered human ships toward Earth. They moved fast, confident that victory was already theirs. Some alien ships split off to chase individual human destroyers, while the main fleet headed straight for the human homeworld. What Zethkal did not know was that the human ships were leading them exactly where Admiral Hyan Wu wanted them to. Go. In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, Commander Taemin Kang waited with his hidden weapons platforms. The platforms looked like ordinary asteroids from the outside, but inside they were full of powerful guns and missiles. Taemin had been waiting in the cold and dark for 6 months, preparing for this moment. "Sir, the alien fleet is entering our zone," reported his second-in-command. "They're following the human ships just like the Admiral predicted." "How many alien ships?" 420, sir. "The rest are still chasing our destroyers." Taemin smiled grimly. The aliens had done exactly what humans always did when they were winning. They had split their forces to catch all the running enemies. It was a natural mistake, but it would cost them dearly. "Signal all platforms. Prepare to activate on my command." Around the asteroid belt, 300 hidden weapons platforms waited in silence. They had been built in secret over the past 2 years, disguised to look like space rocks. The aliens had no idea they were flying into the biggest ambush in human history. Captain Dong Hyan's ship was still running away from a group of 50 alien ships. He checked his chronometer. The 10 minutes of fake fighting was over, and now it was time for the real battle to begin. "All ships prepare for combat turn," he ordered. "It's time to show these aliens what human ships can really do." The Soul's Pride and the other human destroyers suddenly stopped running and spun around to face their pursuers. But now they moved differently, faster and more gracefully than before. The aliens had been chasing what they thought were damaged, frightened ships. Instead, they found themselves facing vessels that had been hiding their true capabilities. "What?" Zethkal said in confusion as he watched his sensors. "The human ships? They're moving too fast. Our intelligence was wrong." But it was too late for the Valathi commander to warn his scattered fleet. All across the solar system, the trap was about to spring. In the asteroid belt, Commander Taemin gave the order he had been waiting months to give. "All platforms activate and fire." 300 asteroids suddenly came alive with weapons fire. Missiles streaked out from hidden launchers and energy beams lanced across space toward the alien fleet. The Valathi ships, spread out and confident, had no time to react. On Luna Command, Admiral Hyan Wu watched the sensor displays as his trap closed around the enemy. Years of planning, months of preparation, and hours of careful acting had led to this moment. Signal all hidden fleets, he ordered. Begin Phase 3. It's time to show the Valathi what humans do when someone threatens our home. All across the solar system, space itself seemed to come alive with weapons and ships that had been hiding in the darkness. The aliens had expected to fight a few dozen primitive human vessels. Instead, they found themselves facing the combined military might of an entire species that had been preparing for war. The real battle for Earth was just beginning. The space around Jupiter exploded with light and fire as commander. Taemin's hidden weapons platforms opened fire on the Valathi fleet. Alien ships that had been confidently chasing human destroyers suddenly found themselves under attack from all sides. Impossible. Fleet Commander Zethkal shouted as his flagship shook from missile impacts. Where did these weapons come from? Our sensors showed nothing but asteroids. On his bridge, alarms were ringing as damage reports came in from across his fleet. The humans had somehow hidden an entire weapons network in what looked like empty space. 20 alien ships were already destroyed, and more were taking heavy damage. Commander, we're receiving emergency signals from our pursuit groups. His communications officer reported with panic in his voice. The human ships we were chasing have turned around and are fighting back. But they're much faster and stronger than our intelligence said they would be. Zethkal could not understand what was happening. Everything his spies had told him about human military capability was wrong. These were not the weak, divided primitives his empire had expected to conquer in a few hours. In the asteroid belt, Commander Taemin watched his weapons platforms tear into the alien formation. Each platform could fire as much as a battleship, but the aliens could not see them clearly enough to fight back effectively. Platform 7 reports target destroyed, his weapons officer called out. Platform 12 has eliminated 2 enemy ships. Good, Taemin replied. Signal the Admiral. Tell him the ambush is working perfectly. But Taemin knew this was only the beginning. The hidden platforms could hurt the alien fleet, but they could not win the battle alone. For that, they would need Admiral Hyun-woo's main plan on Luna Command. Admiral Hyun-woo was watching sensor displays that showed the entire solar system. Red dots marked alien ships, blue dots showed human forces, and yellow dots indicated battle zones. The display looked like a complex game board, with pieces moving all across space. Sir, Captain Dong Hyun reports his ships have engaged the alien pursuit groups, So Young announced. He says their real capabilities are shocking the enemy. And our main fleet? Ready and waiting in Earth orbit, sir. The aliens still don't? No, we have more ships. Double quotes. Hyun-woo nodded. The most important part of his plan was still hidden. While the aliens were fighting Taemin's platforms and Dong Hyun's destroyers, Earth's main defense fleet waited silently in the shadow of their homeworld. The main fleet was not made of old, converted ships like Dong Hyun's force. These were brand new warships, built in secret factories on the far side of the moon. They had been designed specifically to fight the Valathi, using intelligence gathered by human spies who had infiltrated alien-controlled worlds. Captain Ji-hoon Choi commanded one of these new ships, the Basun Guardian. He and his crew had been waiting for hours, watching the battle rage in the outer system while they stayed hidden behind Earth. Captain, the alien main fleet is still heading toward us, his sensor officer reported. 300 ships, moving fast. They'll be here in 2 hours. Are they sending any messages? Ji-hoon asked. Yes, sir. They're trying to contact Earth. Governments demanding surrender. Ji-hoon almost laughed. The aliens still thought this was a normal conquest. They expected Earth's leaders to panic and give up when they saw the size of the alien fleet. They had no idea that Earth's governments had been preparing for this day for years. Back in the asteroid belt, the battle was getting more intense. The Valathi ships had recovered from their initial shock and were starting to fight back more effectively. Commander Zethkal had reorganized his scattered forces and was trying to find and destroy Taemin's hidden platforms. Human weapons platforms located in asteroid sectors 7 and 12, his tactical officer reported. We can destroy them if we concentrate our fire. Do it, Zethkal ordered, and signal our remaining ships to regroup. We need to break through this ambush and reach the human homeworld. Several Valathi ships began firing all their weapons at the asteroids where Taemin's platforms were hidden. The powerful alien guns shattered Space Orcs and destroyed some of the human weapons, but others kept firing back. Commander Taemin watched two of his platforms get destroyed by concentrated alien fire. He had expected to lose some weapons in the battle, but each platform that died took alien ships with it. Platform 19 is gone, sir, his weapons officer reported sadly. But they destroyed 3 enemy ships before they were hit. Signal all remaining platforms, Taemin ordered. Begin mobile firing pattern. Don't let them target us so easily. The hidden weapons platforms began moving through the asteroid field, using the cover of space rocks to avoid alien fire while continuing their attack. It was like a deadly game of hide and seek, played with weapons that could destroy cities. On his ship, Captain Donghayan was leading his destroyers in a running battle with the alien pursuit groups. His 20 ships were fighting against 80 Valathi vessels, but the fight was much more even than the numbers suggested. Sir, the aliens are trying to surround us, Lieutenant Ji-hoon warned from the tactical station. Let them try, Donghayan replied with confidence. Our ships can outrun and outfight theirs. We just need to keep them busy until the Admiral is ready for the next phase. The human destroyers danced through space, using their hidden speed and agility to stay ahead of the alien ships while striking back with deadly precision. Every shot from their concealed weapons was aimed perfectly, while the aliens struggled to hit targets that moved faster than they expected. What the Valathi did not understand was that these human ships had been designed by people who had studied every alien battle for 3 years. Human engineers had watched recordings of Valathi tactics and built ships specifically to counter their strategies. Engineer Hee-jin Lim was monitoring the battle from her control center deep inside Luna Command. Her job was to coordinate the hidden factories that would replace any ship's Earth lost in the fighting. Admiral, our shipyards are operating at full capacity, she reported to Hyun-woo. If we lose ships today, we can build replacements faster. Then the aliens can destroy them. This was another advantage the Valathi had not expected. Most species they conquered had only the ships they started with. When those were destroyed, the battle was over. But humans had turned their entire solar system into a war machine. How many new ships can we produce? Hyun-woo asked. 50 destroyers per day, sir. 10 cruisers per week. The aliens don't know about our automated factories. Hyun-woo allowed himself a small smile. The Valathi thought they were fighting the human fleet. They had no idea they were fighting human industry. As the battle continued to rage across the outer solar system, Fleet Commander Zethkal was beginning to understand that this conquest would not be easy. His fleet had already lost 60 ships, and the humans were still fighting hard. How is this possible? He asked his tactical officer. These humans fight like they've been preparing for us specifically. Sir, our intelligence may have been wrong about their capabilities, the officer replied carefully. They seem much more advanced than we thought. Zethkal studied the battle displays with growing concern. In all his years of conquest, he had never seen a species fight with such coordination and clever tactics. Most aliens panicked when they saw the Valathi fleet. These humans seemed to have planned for every move his forces made. Signal the home fleet, he ordered finally. Tell them we need reinforcements. But what Zethkal did not know was that human intelligence officers like Captain Min Seo Song were already intercepting and changing his messages. The signals his home fleet would receive would tell a very different story than the one he was trying to send. The trap that Admiral Hyun-woo had spent years preparing was working perfectly. But the hardest part of the battle was still to come. The battle had been raging for 12 hours, and Fleet Commander Zethkal was starting to feel something he had never experienced in 20 years of conquest: fear. His mighty fleet of 500 ships was down to 320. And the humans were still fighting with deadly determination. Commander, the human resistance is unlike anything in our records, his tactical officer reported. They fight as if they know our every move before we make it. Zethkal studied the battle displays with growing alarm. The humans had not just surprised him with hidden weapons and faster ships. They seemed to understand Valathi tactics better than his own officers did. Every time he ordered a formation change, the humans were ready for it. Every time he tried a new strategy, they had a counterattack prepared. What the alien commander did not know was that Captain Min Seo Song and her intelligence team had been studying Valathi battle records for 3 years. Hidden deep in an underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Min Seo had access to every alien communication, every tactical manual, and every battle report the Valathi had ever transmitted. "Admiral, the aliens are trying to contact their home fleet again," Min Seo reported to Admiral Hyun-woo through secure channels. "Commander Zethkal is asking for immediate reinforcements. Are you intercepting the message?" Hyun-woo asked. "Yes, sir." Instead of his real message, his home fleet will receive a report saying the conquest is going perfectly and no help is needed. This was one of humanity's most important advantages. While the aliens thought their communications were secure, human cryptographers had broken their codes months ago. Every message the Valathi sent was being read, changed, or blocked by Min Seo's team. In Earth orbit, Captain Ji-hoon Choi was still waiting with the main human fleet. His ship, the Basun Guardian, was one of 45 new warships hidden behind Earth's moon. These ships represented the true strength of human military preparation. "Captain, the alien main force is 1 hour away," his sensor officer announced. 290 ships, still in attack formation. "Signal all ships," Ji-hoon ordered. "Prepare for a combat emergence. It's time to show the aliens what Earth's real defenders look like." The alien fleet approaching Earth looked unstoppable. Even after losing ships in the outer system, Zethkal still commanded nearly 300 warships against what he thought was a helpless planet. He had no idea that 45 of the most advanced ships in human history were waiting for him. Dr. So Young Park was monitoring alien communications from her station on Luna Command. As Earth's chief expert on Valathi psychology, she had been studying the enemy's mental state throughout the battle. "Admiral, the alien commander is showing signs of stress," she reported to Hyun-woo. "Their communications are becoming more emotional and less organized. They're starting to panic." "Good," Hyun-woo replied. "Fear makes mistakes, and mistakes are what we need." So Young had spent months learning how the Valathi mind worked. Unlike humans, who often fought harder when they were desperate, the Valathi became confused and uncertain when things did not go according to plan. Their rigid military training worked well against weaker enemies, but made them vulnerable when facing unexpected situations. In the asteroid belt, Commander Taemin was down to 150 weapons platforms, but they were still fighting effectively. The aliens had learned to avoid the hidden guns, but they could not destroy them all without splitting their forces even more. "Sir, the alien pursuit groups are finally giving up and heading back to their main fleet," his second-in-command reported. "Captain Dong-hyun's ships are following them." "Excellent," Taemin said. "Signal Captain Dong-hyun. Tell him it's time for the hammer blow." This was the moment Admiral Hyun-woo had been waiting for. The alien fleet was tired, confused, and scattered. They had been fighting for hours against enemies that seemed to appear from nowhere. Now it was time to hit them with Earth's main force. Captain Dong-hyun received Taemin's signal and smiled grimly. His 20 destroyers had been running and fighting for half a day, but his crews were still ready for battle. They had been trained for this their entire careers. "All ships, form up for assault pattern," he ordered. "We're going to drive these aliens straight into Captain Ji-hoon's guns." The human destroyers, no longer pretending to be weak, accelerated to their maximum speed and began herding the alien pursuit groups toward Earth. It was like wolves driving prey toward waiting hunters. On his flagship, Fleet Commander Zethkal watched his scattered forces finally beginning to regroup. He had lost nearly 200 ships, but he still had enough firepower to destroy any planet. The humans had fought well, but they could not have unlimited ships and weapons. "All vessels, form attack formation," he ordered. "We will bombard the human homeworld until they surrender." No more clever tricks or hidden weapons will save them. But as his fleet approached Earth, Zethkal's sensors began detecting something that made his blood turn cold. Energy signatures were appearing near the human planet, big ones, indicating large warships powering up their weapons. "Impossible," he whispered. "Where are those ships coming from?" "Behind Earth's moon," Captain Ji-hoon gave the order he had been waiting his entire life to give. "All ships emerge and attack." For Earth. 45 human warships suddenly appeared from behind the moon, their weapons already charged and ready. These were not the converted destroyers or hidden platforms the aliens had been fighting. These were pure warships, designed and built. For this single battle, the Bisun Guardian led the charge, its advanced weapons striking at the alien fleet with devastating accuracy. Lieutenant Min Jae Park, Ji-hoon's tactical officer, had been studying Valathi ship designs for months and knew exactly where to aim. "Direct hit on their command ship," Min Jae reported with excitement. "Their shields are down to 60%. Oh. Across the human formation, similar reports came in. The new ships were performing exactly as their designers had hoped. Years of studying alien technology and tactics were paying off in the most important battle in human history. Fleet Commander Zethkal felt his flagship shake as human weapons found their target. The bridge lights flickered, and he could hear his crew shouting damage reports. For the first time in his career, he was fighting an enemy that might actually be able to defeat him. "All ships, concentrate fire on the human fleet," he ordered. Desperately, "We must break through to their planet." But it was too late. The human ships moved with precision and coordination that the Valathi could not match. Every attack was perfectly timed. Every formation change was flawlessly executed. It was as if the entire human fleet was controlled by a single mind. What Zethkal did not understand was that it almost was. Admiral Hyunwoo's command center had spent years developing battle coordination systems that allowed human ships to fight as a single unit. No alien species had ever achieved such perfect tactical unity. Engineer Hyjin Lim watched the battle from her factory control center and felt pride in her work. The ships she had helped design were performing beautifully, and her automated factories were already building replacements for any that might be lost. "Admiral, our ships are reporting minimal damage," she told Hyunwoo. "The alien weapons are less effective than we feared." This was another advantage the Valathi had not expected. Human ships had been designed specifically to resist Valathi weapons using intelligence gathered from captured alien equipment. The humans had not just prepared tactics for this battle, they had prepared technology. As the battle raged around Earth, Captain Min Seo-song intercepted another desperate message from the alien commander to his home fleet. This time, instead of changing it, she let it go through exactly as Zethkal had sent it. "Admiral, I'm letting this message reach the Valathi Empire," she reported to Hyunwoo. "It's a panic report saying Earth's defenses are impossible to defeat." "I think it's time their leaders knew what kind of enemy they've chosen to fight." Hyunwoo nodded approvingly. The psychological warfare was just as important as the physical battle. When this day was over, every alien in the galaxy would know that Earth was not a world to be attacked lightly. The trap was closing, and the Valathi were finally beginning to understand what they had gotten themselves into. The space around Earth had become a graveyard of burning alien ships. Fleet Commander Zethkal's once mighty fleet of 500 vessels was now down to less than 100, and those remaining ships were damaged and demoralized. On the bridge of his flagship, Zethkal stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The humans had not just defeated his fleet, they had destroyed it with a precision and ruthlessness that shocked him to his core. Every move he had made, they had been ready for. Every tactic he had tried, they had countered perfectly. "Commander, we're receiving surrender demands from the human fleet," his communications officer reported with a shaking voice. "Surrender demands?" Zethkal could barely speak the words. In all his years of conquest, no species had ever demanded his surrender. The Valathi Empire was supposed to be unstoppable. On the Bisun Guardian, Captain Ji-hoon watched the alien fleet, trying to regroup for what might be their final attack. His ship had taken some damage, but nothing serious. The human fleet was still strong and ready to finish the battle. Captain Admiral Hyan-Woo is signaling, his communications officer announced. He wants to speak to the alien commander directly. Ji-hoon smiled. The admiral was ready for the final phase of his plan, the part that would ensure this victory meant something beyond just one battle. On Luna Command, Admiral Hyan-Woo stood before the main communications array. He had prepared for this moment for years, knowing that the real victory would not come from destroying the alien fleet, but from the message this battle would send across the galaxy. Open a channel to the alien flagship, he ordered. Full broadcast so every ship in their fleet can hear. Dr. So-Young Park worked quickly at her translation station. Channel open, sir. Broadcasting in Valathi language on all frequencies. Hyan-Woo began to speak, and his words were transmitted not just to the alien fleet, but to secret human listening posts throughout the galaxy. Every word would be recorded and eventually reach every spacefaring species in the local sector. Commander Zethkal of the Valathi Empire, Hyan-Woo said calmly. I am Admiral Hyan-Woo Kim of the Terran Defense Force. Your fleet is defeated. Your ships are destroyed. Your invasion has failed? On the alien flagship, Zethkal listened to the human's words with growing amazement. The admiral's voice was not filled with anger or hatred. Instead, it carried the cold certainty of someone who had planned every detail of this moment. But I am not calling to gloat over your defeat, Hyan-Woo continued. I am calling to give you a choice. You can order your remaining ships to continue fighting, and we will destroy every last one of them. Or you can withdraw from our system and carry a message back to your empire. What message? Zethkal found himself asking, even though he knew his words were being broadcast to his entire fleet. That Earth is not the weak, divided world your intelligence reports described. That humanity is not a species that will surrender when threatened. And that any alien empire that comes to our world with thoughts of conquest will find themselves fighting the most dangerous enemy they have ever faced. Captain Minesio Song monitored the alien communications as Hyan-Woo spoke. She could hear the fear and confusion in the Valathi voices as they realized their entire understanding of humanity had been wrong. Admiral, the alien ships are starting to break formation, she reported. Some of them want to flee, but others are still loyal to their commander. This was exactly what Hyan-Woo had expected. The Valathi were a proud species, but they were not stupid. When faced with certain destruction, even the most loyal soldiers would start to question their orders. Commander Taemin's remaining weapons platforms were still hidden throughout the asteroid belt, ready to destroy any alien ship that tried to escape without permission. But Hyan-Woo's plan required some of the aliens to survive. They needed to carry the story of Earth's strength back to their empire. Commander Zethkal, Hyan-Woo continued, I will allow 17 of your fastest ships to leave our system. Not because I cannot destroy them, but because I want your empire to know what happened here today. Choose your ships wisely, because they will be the only survivors of your great invasion fleet. The alien commander felt his pride warring with his survival instinct. Everything in his military training told him to fight to the death rather than accept such humiliating terms. But everything in his logical mind told him that continued fighting would only lead to the complete destruction of his remaining forces. Why 17 ships? He asked finally. Because that is how many ships I choose to let live, Hyan-Woo replied simply. And because your empire needs to understand that humanity controls every aspect of this battle, including its ending. Captain Dong Hyan, whose destroyers had been fighting the aliens for nearly 24 hours, watched the alien fleet beginning to break apart. Some ships were trying to run, others were preparing for a final desperate attack, and a few were just drifting in space with their crews too shocked to function. Sir, should we pursue the fleeing ships? His tactical officer asked. No, Dong Hyan replied. The admiral wants some of them to escape. Our job now is to make sure only the ships he chooses actually make it out of the system. This level of control over the battlefield amazed even the human officers. They had not just defeated the alien invasion, they were managing its aftermath with the same precision they had used to plan the battle itself. Engineer Haijin Lem was already analyzing the wreckage of alien ships, collecting data that would help Earth prepare for future encounters. Her automated systems were salvaging useful technology while her factories continued building new human ships. "Admiral, we're learning a lot from the alien wrecks," she reported to Hyun-woo. "Their weapons technology is different from ours, but not necessarily better. We can adapt our defenses to handle anything like this in the future." This was perhaps the most important part of the victory. Earth had not just survived an alien invasion, they had learned from it. Every piece of alien technology, every tactical mistake the Valathi had made, every weakness they had shown would be studied and remembered. Fleet Commander Zethkal finally made his decision. Pride was not worth the lives of his remaining crews, and he had a duty to warn his empire about the true nature of their new enemy. "Admiral Kim," he said formally, "I accept your terms. 17 ships will withdraw from your system. But know that this is not the end. The Valathi Empire will not forget what happened here." "I hope they do not forget," Hyun-woo replied. "Because if they do, they will make the same mistake you made today. And next time, we will not be so generous." The alien commander began selecting which ships would be allowed to leave. He chose the fastest vessels, the ones most likely to reach Valathi space safely, but he also made sure to include ships whose crews had seen the worst of the fighting, the ones who could best describe the true horror of facing humanity in battle. As the 17 chosen ships prepared to leave the solar system, Captain Ji-hoon received new orders from Admiral Hyun-woo. "All ships, form honor guard formation. We will escort the surviving aliens to the edge of our system. I want them to see our strength one last time before they go." The human fleet arranged itself into a perfect formation around the fleeing alien ships. It was not a threatening gesture, but a demonstration of power and control. The aliens were leaving not because they had fought their way out, but because humanity had chosen to let them go. Dr. So-young Park monitored the alien communications as the 17 ships began their journey home. She could hear the shock and fear in their voices as they tried to understand what had happened to their mighty invasion fleet. "Admiral, the aliens are broadcasting to each other," she reported. "They're trying to figure out how to report this defeat to their empire." "Let them struggle with that problem," Han-woo replied. "The important thing is that they will report it. And when they do, every alien species in the galaxy will learn that Earth is not a world to be attacked lightly." As the last of the Valathi ships disappeared into hyperspace, Admiral Hyun-woo stood on the observation deck of Luna Command and looked out at the stars. The battle was over, but the war for humanity's place in the galaxy was just beginning. The trap had worked perfectly, but now came the hardest part, making sure the galaxy understood the message. 3 weeks after the battle, Sub-Commander Yellonoth stood in the main briefing hall of the Valathi High Command, trying to explain the impossible to his superiors. He was one of the 17 survivors, and his ship had been among the last to escape Earth's solar system. "You are telling us that Fleet Commander Zethkal's entire invasion force was destroyed by a primitive species?" High Commander Veltar asked in disbelief. 500 ships, defeated by humans who barely have spaceflight? Yellonoth had been dreading this moment for 3 weeks. Ever since his ship had limped back to Valathi space with news of the greatest military disaster in their empire's history. He had practiced his report dozens of times, but the words still sounded impossible even to him. "High Commander, everything our intelligence told us about the humans was wrong," he began carefully. "They are not primitive. They are not divided. And they are definitely not weak." The briefing hall fell silent. Around the curved walls, holographic displays showed the Valathi Empire's star maps, 17 conquered systems, that had fallen easily to their military might. Never before had a Valathi invasion fleet been defeated, let alone destroyed so completely. "Explain," Veltar commanded. Yellonoth activated his ship's battle recordings. The main display filled with images of the fight around Earth, human ships appearing from nowhere, hidden weapons platforms emerging from asteroid fields, and the systematic destruction of Valathi forces. "The humans set a trap, sir. Everything they showed us before the invasion was fake." The ships we thought were their entire fleet were just decoys. The wars we observed were training exercises. They made us believe they were helpless so we would underestimate them. High Commander Veltar studied the recordings with growing alarm. The human ships moved with a coordination no Valathi commander had ever achieved. Their weapons struck with deadly precision, and their tactics showed an understanding of Valathi strategy that seemed impossible. How could they know our battle? Formations? Another commander asked. These tactics are classified at the highest levels. We believe they have been studying us for years, sir, Yelenoth replied. They seem to know every move we would make before we made it. Their admiral even spoke our language perfectly when he offered terms for our withdrawal. The mention of Admiral Hyan Wu made several Valathi officers shift uncomfortably. The human commander had not just defeated them, he had humiliated them, by allowing survivors to return home with the story of their defeat. On Earth, Admiral Hyan Wu was meeting with his senior staff to plan humanity's next moves. The victory over the Valathi had bought Earth time, but it had also announced to the galaxy that humans were a force to be reckoned with. Sir, our deep space monitoring stations are picking up increased alien communications throughout the sector. Captain Minesio Song reported. The news of the Valathi defeat is spreading quickly. What are they saying? Hyan Wu asked. Mixed reactions, sir. Some species are afraid of us now. Others are curious about potential trade or alliance. A few seem to be planning to test our defenses themselves. Dr. So-Young Park looked up from her analysis reports. Admiral, I've been studying the psychological profiles of the Valathi survivors. They're genuinely traumatized by what happened here. They keep describing human tactics as impossible and unnatural. Good, Hyan Wu said simply. Fear is the beginning of respect. But the Admiral knew that one victory, no matter how complete, would not be enough to secure Earth's safety. Other alien empires would eventually come to test humanity's strength, and Earth needed to be ready for them. Engineer Haijin Lim had been working around the clock to analyze the captured Valathi technology. Her teams had learned valuable lessons from studying the alien ships, as she was already incorporating new designs into Earth's expanding fleet. Admiral, the alien technology is impressive but not superior to ours, she reported. What made them dangerous was their experience and numbers, not their equipment. We can match or exceed their capabilities in both areas now. Commander Taemin was overseeing the construction of new hidden defense networks throughout the solar system. The asteroid belt platforms had worked perfectly, but he wanted to expand the concept to create an invisible fortress around Earth. Sir, we're building 3 times as many hidden platforms as we had for the first battle, he told Hyan Wu. Any future invasion will face an even deadlier surprise. Captain Ji-hoon was training the crews of Earth's new warships. The factories had not stopped building since the battle ended, and humanity now had more military ships than ever before. But more importantly, they had crews who had proven themselves in actual combat. Admiral, our pilots are eager for the next battle, Ji-hoon reported. The victory over the Valathi has given them incredible confidence. Confidence is good, Hyan Wu replied, but overconfidence is dangerous. Make sure they remember that. We won through preparation and intelligence, not just courage. Back in Valathi space, the political consequences of the defeat were becoming clear. High Commander Veltar had called an emergency session of the Empire's ruling council to decide how to respond to this unprecedented disaster. The humans allowed 17 ships to escape, he told the assembled leaders. This was clearly a deliberate choice. They wanted us to bring back news of their strength. Then they succeeded, Council Prime Zeekmore replied grimly. The entire Empire is talking about nothing else. Some worlds are questioning whether the Valathi military can protect them anymore. This was exactly what Admiral Hyan Wu had hoped would happen. By demonstrating overwhelming superiority while showing mercy to survivors, humanity had achieved something no military victory could accomplish alone. They had made their enemies afraid to attack them. Sub-Commander Yelenoth was asked to brief the council personally. Standing before the most powerful leaders in Valathi space, he tried to convey the true horror of fighting humanity. Honored Council, the humans did not just defeat us, he said carefully. They controlled every aspect of the battle from beginning to end. They made us do exactly what they wanted us to do, and then they destroyed us for it. You are saying they manipulated our entire invasion strategy? Council Prime Zeekmore asked. Yes, sir. They let us think we were winning until the moment they chose to reveal their true strength. It was the most sophisticated military deception I have ever seen. Council members exchanged worried glances. The Valathi Empire had built its power on the fear their military inspired in other species. If that fear was replaced by the knowledge that humans could outsmart and outfight them, the entire empire might begin to crumble. What do you recommend? Veltar asked the council. We should send diplomats, not warships, Yelena said immediately. The humans offered to let us withdraw with honor. Perhaps they would be willing to negotiate a formal peace treaty. This suggestion caused an uproar among the more military-minded council members. The idea of the mighty Valathi Empire asking for peace from a species they had tried to conquer was almost unthinkable, but Council Prime Zeekmore was older and wiser than most of his colleagues. He understood that sometimes the greatest victory was knowing when not to fight. Contact the human admiral, he ordered finally. Arrange a meeting. We will explore the possibility of diplomatic relations. On Earth, Admiral Hyan-Woo received the Valathi message with satisfaction. The plan was working even better than he had hoped. The aliens were not just afraid, they were actively seeking peace. Sir, the Valathi want to send ambassadors to Earth, Captain Minesio reported. They're requesting safe passage for a diplomatic ship. Granted, Hyan-Woo replied immediately. But make sure they understand that they're coming to us as the defeated party. This will be a negotiation, not a surrender, but the terms will reflect the reality of their situation. Dr. So Young began preparing for the most important diplomatic contact in human history. She would need to understand not just Valathi psychology, but the psychology of every alien species that would eventually hear about these negotiations. The message Earth sent to the galaxy through this encounter would shape humanity's future among the stars. They had proven they could fight. Now they had to prove they could lead. 6 months after the battle, Ambassador Dalaneth of the Valathi Empire stood in the observation lounge of his diplomatic ship, watching Earth grow larger on the viewscreen. He had been chosen for this mission because he was one of the few Valathi who had never been involved in their military conquests. The council hoped this would make him seem less threatening to the humans. Ambassador, we're receiving approach instructions from Earth Traffic Control, his pilot reported. They're directing us to a space station in orbit around their moon. Dalaneth nodded nervously. Everything about this mission was unprecedented. Never before had the Valathi Empire sent diplomats to negotiate with a species they had tried to conquer. The very idea would have been laughable 6 months ago on Luna Command. Admiral Hyan-Woo watched the Valathi diplomatic ship approach through his office window. Dr. So-Young Park stood beside him, reviewing her files on Valathi culture and psychology one final time. Remember, Admiral, she said quietly, they're coming here because they're afraid of us. But fear can make species either very cooperative or very dangerous. We need to give them a way to save face while accepting the new reality. What do you recommend? Treat them with respect, but make it clear that Earth is now the dominant power in this relationship. Don't humiliate them, but don't let them forget why they're here. The meeting took place in Luna Command's main conference room. Admiral Hyan-Woo sat at the head of a long table, flanked by his senior officers. When Ambassador Dalaneth entered, with his small delegation, the contrast was immediately obvious. The humans looked confident and relaxed, while the Valathi seemed tense and uncertain. Ambassador Dalaneth, Hyan-Woo said formally, welcome to Luna Command. I am Admiral Hyan-Woo Kim, Commander of Earth's Defense Forces. Admiral Kim, Dalaneth replied with a slight bow. I bring greetings from the Valathi High Council and their sincere desire for peaceful relations between our peoples. The word peaceful hung in the air like a confession. Both sides knew why the Valathi were here. They were too afraid to continue their aggressive expansion while Earth existed as a potential threat. Captain Minesio's song activated the room's recording systems. Everything said in this meeting would be broadcast to intelligence services throughout the galaxy. The diplomatic precedent they set here would influence alien relations with humanity for generations. Before we discuss the future, Haiyan Wu said calmly, let us address the past. Your empire invaded our system with the intention of conquering our world. Your forces killed human defenders and attempted to destroy our civilization. Do you acknowledge this? Dalaneth had prepared for this question, but it was still difficult to answer. Admiral, the Valathi Empire acknowledges that military action was taken against Earth based on incomplete intelligence. We deeply regret the loss of life on both sides. It was not quite an apology, but it was as close as the proud Valathi could come to admitting they had been wrong. Dr. So-Young leaned forward slightly. She had been studying Ambassador Dalaneth's body language and voice patterns, reading the subtle signs of Valathi emotion and stress. Ambassador, she said gently, your empire has conquered 17 star systems. In each case, you demanded unconditional surrender from the local species. Why should Earth accept anything less from you? The question struck Dalaneth like a physical blow. He had hoped the humans would be satisfied with their military victory and agree to a simple non-aggression pact. The idea that they might demand Valathi surrender had not seriously been considered by his government. Dr. Park, he said carefully, surely you understand that the Valathi Empire cannot simply surrender to a single world, regardless of the unfortunate outcome of our recent encounter. Cannot or will not? Admiral Haiyan Wu asked quietly. The silence that followed was deafening. Dalaneth realized that the humans were not just seeking peace, they were establishing their position. As the dominant power in this region of the galaxy, Engineer Haijin Lim spoke for the first time. Ambassador, Earth's industrial capacity has increased by 300% since your invasion. Our military fleet is now larger than it was when you attacked us. And our defensive systems extend throughout the solar system. Do you understand what this means? Dalaneth understood perfectly. The humans were telling him that they were not just stronger than the Valathi had expected, they were getting stronger every day. Commander Taemin added his own subtle threat. Our deep space monitoring stations can track ship movements up to 50 light-years from Earth. We know the location and strength of every Valathi fleet in this sector of the galaxy. This was news that made Dalaneth's blood run cold. If the humans could monitor Valathi ship movements across such distances, the Empire's military secrets were no longer secret. What do you want from us? Dalaneth asked finally. Admiral Haiyan Wu leaned back in his chair. This was the moment he had been preparing for since the battle ended. First, immediate cessation of all Valathi military expansion. Your empire will not conquer any new worlds. That is difficult, Dalaneth replied. Our economy depends on the resources of conquered worlds. Then you will need to learn to trade for resources instead of stealing them, Dr. So-Young said. Bluntly, Earth is prepared to help you make this transition, but only if you abandon your aggressive policies completely. Second, Haiyan Wu continued, establishment of diplomatic relations between Earth and all species in Valathi-controlled space. We want to speak directly with the worlds you have conquered. This demand was even more troubling to Dalaneth. If the humans began communicating with conquered Valathi worlds, they might inspire rebellions throughout the Empire. Third, joint military cooperation against any new threats to this region of the galaxy. If another aggressive species appears, Earth and the Valathi Empire will work together to deal with them. Dalaneth was beginning to understand the scope of what the humans were proposing. They were not just seeking peace, they were positioning themselves as the new dominant power in the local sector. And if we refuse these terms? He asked. Captain Ji-hoon spoke for the first time, his voice carrying the quiet confidence of someone who had faced Valathi warships in battle and won. Then, Earth will consider the Valathi Empire a continuing threat to galactic peace and will act accordingly. The meaning was clear. If the Valathi refused to cooperate, Earth would take military action against them, and based on the last battle, the Valathi would lose. Dalaneth requested a recess to communicate with his government, while he spoke with the High Council through encrypted channels. The human delegation waited patiently. "Admiral," Dr. So-Young said quietly during the break, "the ambassador is more frightened than he's letting on. His government must be in chaos after their defeat." "Good," Hyun-Woo replied. "Fear will make them more reasonable." When the meeting resumed, Dalaneth looked even more stressed than before. His conversation with the High Council had clearly not gone well. "Admiral Kim," he said formally, "the Valathi High Council is prepared to consider your proposals, but they will need time to implement such significant changes to our policies." "How much time?" Hyun-Woo asked. 1 year to halt military expansion, 2 years to establish full diplomatic relations, 3 years to begin joint military cooperation. Hyun-Woo shook his head. 6 months for everything. Earth will not wait. 3 years while you decide whether to honor this agreement. "That is impossible." "Then make it possible," Dr. So-Young said firmly. "Your empire had no trouble making quick decisions when you were conquering other worlds. Surely you can move just as quickly when making peace." Dalaneth realized that the humans were not going to accept any delays or excuses. They were treating the Valathi Empire like a defeated enemy that was being offered generous terms, not like an equal negotiating partner. "I will need to consult with my government again," he said finally. "Of course," Admiral Hyun-Woo replied. "But Ambassador, understand this clearly. Earth is offering the Valathi Empire a chance to survive and prosper in a galaxy where humanity is the dominant military power. This offer will not remain open indefinitely." As Dalaneth left the conference room to make another call to his government, he understood that the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted permanently. The age of Valathi expansion was over, and the age of human influence was just beginning. 2 years after the Battle of Earth, Captain Dong Hyun Lee stood on the bridge of his new ship, the New Soul, watching a convoy of merchant vessels from 12 different alien species approaching Earth's orbital trading station. What had once been humanity's greatest military secret was now the bustling center of interstellar commerce in the local sector. "Captain, we're receiving approach requests from Valathi, Kalrani, Zephyrian, and Altarian vessels," his communications officer reported. "All requesting permission to dock and trade." "Grant them all clearance," Dong Hyun replied with satisfaction, "and remind them of the station's peace protocols." The protocols were simple but effective. No military vessels were allowed within Earth's solar system without explicit permission. All disputes between alien species had to be resolved through Earth's diplomatic corps, and any aggressive action toward any species would result in immediate ejection from Earth's protection. Admiral Hyun-Woo had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. He had created a zone of enforced peace simply by being too dangerous to challenge. On the surface of Earth, in the underground diplomatic complex beneath Geneva, Dr. So-Young Park was hosting a meeting between representatives of 6 different species. The humans had become the unofficial mediators for the entire region, settling disputes and negotiating treaties between aliens who had been enemies for centuries. The Kalrani claim that the Zephyrians have violated the mining rights agreement. "For the Altus system," she explained to the assembled diplomats. "The Zephyrians say the Kalrani are misinterpreting the treaty language." Both alien delegations began arguing loudly in their native languages until So-Young raised her hand for silence. "Enough," she said firmly. "Earth will review the original treaty and issue a binding interpretation within 30 days. Both species will accept our decision as final." The remarkable thing was that they would accept it. Even species that had never been conquered by humanity now deferred to Earth's judgment. In interstellar disputes, the story of the Valathi defeat had spread throughout the galaxy, and everyone understood that challenging humanity was not wise. Ambassador Dalaneth, who had remained on Earth as the Valathi Empire's permanent representative, watched the mediation session with mixed feelings. 2 years ago, his people had been the dominant military power in this region. Now they were just another species seeking Earth's protection and guidance, but he had to admit that the new arrangement was working. Valathi worlds were more prosperous than ever, now that they were trading freely instead of supporting massive military fleets. The Empire's economy had grown dramatically once they stopped spending most of their resources on conquest. Dr. Park, Dalaneth said after the other diplomats had left, "My government has a new proposal for joint exploration of the Outer Rim systems." "I'll review it," So Young replied. "But remember, any exploration must be peaceful and must include representatives from at least 3 different species. Earth will not support Valathi expansion, even if you call it exploration." Dalaneth nodded. He had learned to accept these restrictions. The alternative, facing Earth's military displeasure, was too terrible to consider. In the asteroid belt, Commander Tae-min was overseeing the construction of the largest space-based manufacturing complex in galactic history. Human factories now produce goods for dozens of alien species, and the profits were being reinvested in Earth's expanding fleet and defense networks. "Sir, the new monitoring stations are online," his engineering chief reported. "We can now track ship movements up to 100 light-years from Earth." "Excellent," Taemin replied. "Any signs of new aggressive species moving into our area?" "None, sir. Word seems to have spread pretty effectively about what happens to species that threaten Earth's peace." It was true. The story of the Valathi defeat had become a legend throughout the galaxy. Some species told it as a cautionary tale about the dangers of underestimating unknown enemies. Others spoke of it as proof that even the mightiest empires could fall if they became too arrogant. Captain Ji-hoon was leading humanity's first deep space exploration mission, commanding a fleet of 12 ships on a journey to systems beyond any previous human exploration. But this was not a military expedition. It was a diplomatic mission to make contact with species that had not yet heard about Earth. "Captain, we're approaching the Centauri Reach," his navigator reported. "Long-range sensors detect artificial structures around the 4th planet. Signal our intentions," Ji-hoon ordered. "Full peaceful contact protocols. And make sure our defensive systems are ready but not obviously armed." The humans had learned that first impressions were crucial in alien contact. They needed to appear strong enough to demand respect, but peaceful enough to avoid triggering immediate hostility. Captain Min Seo Song, now Admiral Min Seo Song, was overseeing Earth's intelligence networks from her command center deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. Human agents and monitoring stations now covered half the galaxy, gathering information about potential threats and opportunities. "Admiral Hyun Woo, we're picking up interesting signals from the outer spiral," she reported during their weekly briefing. "There are signs of a major war between 2 species we haven't encountered before." "How far away?" Hyun Woo asked. "About 200 light-years. Not an immediate threat, but if one side wins decisively, they might start expanding in our direction." Hyun Woo nodded thoughtfully. "Prepare a monitoring mission. If this war threatens galactic stability, Earth may need to intervene." The idea that humanity might intervene in a war between alien species 200 light-years away would have been laughable 3 years ago. Now it was simply good policy. Earth had become the regional superpower, and superpowers had responsibilities as well as privileges. Engineer Hyjin Lin was working on humanity's most ambitious project yet, a network of automated defense platforms that would extend Earth's protection to allied worlds throughout the local sector. Any species that accepted Earth's peace protocols would be defended by human technology. "Admiral, the first phase of the Guardian network is ready for deployment," she reported to Hyun Woo. "We can protect 12 star systems initially with expansion planned as we build more platforms." "Which systems do you recommend for the first phase?" "The Valathi home system, definitely. Also the Kaurani and Zephyrian core worlds. If we can protect the most important worlds of our former enemies, it will demonstrate that Earth's protection is real." This was perhaps the most remarkable aspect of humanity's rise to power. Instead of conquering their enemies, they were protecting them. The Valathi Empire, which had tried to destroy Earth, was now under Earth's military umbrella. Admiral Hyun Woo stood once again on the observation deck of Luna Command, but now he was watching a very different scene. Instead of preparing for an alien invasion, he was watching peaceful merchant ships from dozens of species coming and going from Earth's trading stations. "Admiral," Dr. So-young said, joining him at the window, "the latest reports show that interstellar trade in our region has increased by 400% since we established the peace protocols. And military conflicts? Down by 90%. Most species would rather trade than fight now that they know Earth will intervene in any aggressive actions." Hyun Woo smiled slightly. The plan had worked better than even he had dared to hope. By demonstrating overwhelming military superiority in a single battle, humanity had created a zone of peace that benefited everyone. "Sir, we're receiving a priority message from Captain Ji-hoon's exploration fleet," the communications officer announced. "They've made contact with a species called the Andromedans. Apparently they've been looking for us." "Looking for us?" Hyun Woo asked with interest. "Yes, sir. It seems the story of Earth's victory over the Valathi has reached the other side of the galaxy. The Andromedans want to establish diplomatic relations with the species that ended Valathi expansion." Hyun Woo felt a moment of quiet pride. 3 years ago, humanity had been an unknown species on the edge of galactic civilization. Now, aliens from across the galaxy were seeking them out as potential allies. "Prepare a full diplomatic response," he ordered, "and alert all department heads. It sounds like Earth's influence is about to expand again." As he watched the stars through the observation deck windows, Admiral Hyun Woo reflected on how much had changed since that day when 500 Valathi ships had approached Earth expecting an easy conquest. They had thought Earth would crumble easily, but instead they had learned what happened when humanity was pushed too far. The 17 ships that had escaped Earth's solar system had indeed been empty, not of crew, but of hope for Valathi dominance. They had carried back the truth about humanity's strength, and that truth had changed the galaxy. Now, instead of being conquerors, the Valathi were partners. Instead of being enemies, dozens of alien species competed for Earth's friendship. And instead of being victims, humanity had become the guardians of galactic peace. The empty ships had delivered the most powerful message in the galaxy: never mistake human restraint for human weakness. And never, ever assume that Earth would crumble easily